Krishna Tribhavana. Hey, Vijaya Krishna Tribhavana. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana. Tu Pade Loya Sharana. Tu Pade Loya Sharana. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavade Pashatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Nrshima Dev, Nrshima Dev, Nrshima Dev, Jaya Nrshima Dev. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Nitya Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitya Gaura Haribo.
Yeah, sure. Please move forward.
Hare. Thank you. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janabalaba Giridvaradhari Gopi Janabalaba Giridvaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janabalaba Giridvaradhari Jaya Gopi Janaballabha Giridharidhari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janaballabha Giridharidhari Jaya Gopi Janaballabha Giridharidhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Nrshringadev, 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 Jaya Nrshringadev. Jaya Nrshringadev, 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 Jaya Nrshringadev. Jai Bhakta Prahlad, Bhakta Prahlad, Bhakta Prahlad, Jai Bhakta Prahlad. Jai Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jai Prahlad Maharaj. Jai Om Shibam Sabadaraja Stote Satrisisimad AC Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Jai Om Vishnubham Sabadaraja Astote Satrisisimad Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasi Thakur Prabhupada Ki. Anantakoti Vaishnavinda Ki. ISKCON founder Charles Prabhupada Ki. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki. Shri Sri Radha Krishna Gopakapina Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Navadvip Dham Ki. Ganga Mai Ki. Yamuna Mai Ki. Tulasi Devi Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki. Gaura Premanandi. All glorious assembled devotees. All glorious assembled devotees. All glorious assembled devotees. All glories to CC Guru Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. In celebration of the appearance day of Lord Nrsingadev, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 7, What Prahlad Learned in the Womb. As you all know, Prahlad Maharaj and Lord Nrsingadev are inseparable. Text 55. Etavan eva lokesmin Pumsa swata parasmita Ekanta bhakti govinde Yat sarvatra tarikshanam Etavan eva lokesmin Pumsa swata parasmita Ekanta bhakti govinde Yat sarvatra tarikshanam Etavan eva lokesmin Pumsa swata parasmita Ekanta bhakti govinde Yat sarvatra tarikshanam Vaishnavis. Etavan, this much. Eva, certainly. Loke asmin, in this material world. Pumsa, of the living entity. Sa'arta, the real self-interest. Pada, transcendental. Smita, regarded. Ekanta bhakti, unalloyed devotional service. Govinde, to Govinda. Yat, which. Sarvatra, everywhere. Tarikshanam, seeing the relationship with Govinda. Krishna, translation. In this material world, to render service to the lotus feet of Govinda, the cause of all causes, and to see him everywhere, is the only goal of life. This much alone is the ultimate goal of human life, as explained by all revealed scriptures. Purport. In this verse, the words Sarvatra Tarikshanam describe the highest perfection of devotional service, in which one sees everything with reference to Govinda's activities. This highly elevated devotee, the highly elevated devotee, never sees anything unrelated to Govinda. Stavra Jangama Teke Na Teke Tar Murti Sarvachahoy Nij Ishta Deva Spurti. The Mahabhagavat, the advanced devotee, certainly sees everything mobile and immobile, but he does not exactly see their forms. Rather, everywhere he immediately sees manifest the form of the Supreme Lord. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 8, 274. Even in this material world, a devotee does not see materially manifested things. Instead, he sees Govinda in everything. When he sees a tree or a human being, a devotee sees them in relation to Govinda. Govindam Adi Purusham. Govinda is the original source of everything. Ishvara Padama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadhya Adhya Govinda Sarvakarna Karanam. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme controller. He has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, for he is the prime cause of all causes. Brahma Samhita 5.1. The test of a perfect devotee is that he sees Govinda everywhere in this universe, even in every atomic particle. Andantarasta paramanu chayantarastam. This is the perfect vision of a devotee. It is therefore said, Narayanam ayam dira pasyanti paramartina jagad dana mayam lubda kamuka kamani mayam. A devotee sees everyone and everything in relationship with Narayan. Narayanam ayam. Everything is an expansion of Narayan's energy. Just as those who are greedy see everything as a source of money-making, and those who are lusty see everything as being conducive to sex, the most perfect devotee, Prahlad Maharaj, saw Narayan even within a stone column. This does not mean, however, that we must accept the words Daridra Narayana, which have been manufactured by some unscrupulous persons. One who actually envisions Narayan everywhere makes no distinction between the poor and the rich. To single out the Daridra Narayanas, or poor Narayan, and reject the Dhani Narayana, or rich Narayan, is not the vision of a devotee. Rather, that is the imperfect vision of materialistic persons. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 7th canto, 7th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled What Prahlad Learned in the Womb. Om Jnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. It's a great honor to speak in front of you all and open this extraordinary weekend. Of course, actually, Braj Bihari Prabhu inaugurated the weekend last night. I have to admit, I happened to hear that there was a certain infamous person who was deemed responsible for this weekend and who had issued a challenge at the ILS. Sometimes I open my mouth too much. But I see the potential for outreach in the USA to be greater than it's ever been. Not that I am an expert at all in mining that potential, but from what you might consider an exotic vantage point, I have seen the dynamics, especially of the millennials, those between the age of 18 and 30. I've seen those dynamics shift dramatically to a point of great readiness. I am seeking to adjust and readapt to outreach in the USA, so therefore I am no expert. I have to explain that. I've been specializing for quite some time in, yes, first world countries, English-speaking countries, but the USA is something for me to become re-educated about. I have to give those disclaimers. I'm born in New York, and my greatest challenge in becoming a devotee and hearing from Srila Prabhupada was only one thing. I had no problems with anything. I just swallowed everything like the nectar that it is. But I couldn't understand why Prabhupada criticized New York. I thought everyone knows New York is the center of the universe. Everyone knows New York is heaven. I couldn't understand why he would criticize. Now when I go back there sometimes, I think, oh my God, what kind of place is this? So I'm seeking to reacclimate myself the past few years. I've crossed the border from Toronto. That was just generally in terms of outreach, outside engagements in North America. I would focus on Toronto, the students there, the millennials, 18 to 30 age persons there. But it's different. There are different sensitivities, different attitudes. These social welfare countries, they don't have a certain social angst that is so present in the USA, because the government is always there to, at least while the governments have money, to hold out a basket and catch you. And that does change things a bit, as Kalakanta Prabhu pointed out to me when he visited, so kind to visit us for our end of the year festival in New Zealand, he pointed out some things which I did take note of. He said, you've got about as a socially benign government as you're going to get anywhere in this world. Therefore, he didn't notice that kind of anxiety that's present in the USA. Where's my health care? What's going to happen when I retire? What if I don't have a job? How will I live? He alerted me to that point, and I definitely took it in. And he also pointed out to me, I'm just sharing this with you so you see that I'm learning, I'm educating myself. He pointed out to me, hey, because I told him there's so many Americans here. This place is loaded with American students, American adventure tourists. And he said, what kind of persons are you getting here? You're getting very open, alternative-minded persons that they're coming for that particular reason. They're coming from that particular mentality. And upon seeing Gopal Bhatta Prabhu's marketing tutorial, I hope everyone had a chance to look at that. Then I realized what's going on here. Why am I so deeply absorbed in mining a certain, tapping into a certain gold mine? Because the marketing of the New Zealand Tourist Board is all about think differently, act differently. Here you can come and be yourself. It's for the different kind of persons. So again, hearing from others has caused me to understand how marketing shapes the clientele that you're dealing with. So Kalakanta Prabhu pointed out to me that, you've got the most open-minded, creative, individualistic, anti-system Americans coming here. Well, okay, we're taking advantage, but it was humbling to hear that from him. He said, you don't have these football fraternity type, college students. As he humbly claims he has to deal with in Gainesville. But so I remember a few years ago, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj was urging me, please come back to the USA, do more outreach in the USA. And he told me something I never forgot. He said, don't worry, you're going to make mistakes. In tuning in, there are going to be, mistakes, but don't let that throw you. So I remembered that. And yes, the past 2 years I've been doing many programs at universities in the USA. The past few weeks I've done about 15 of them. And I consider myself a student. As even professional athletes, the top professional athletes say, they consider themselves to be students of the game. They don't consider they've mastered everything. So I have a lot to learn, but I'm willing to throw myself into the process of learning, and that involves wearing your heart on the sleeve and gradually learning once again. Just like a New Yorker has to learn how to understand New York again. It won't take forever, but I'm just letting you know that I'm on no pedestal, please. So, I've chosen this verse because it's the end of Prahlad's instructions to his schoolmates. Speaking about Lord Nrsimhadev is inseparable from speaking about Prahlad Maharaj. How did that instruction begin? You're going to see when you study Prahlad's instructions, everything from A to Z. I almost said A to Z, but A to Z. So, how did he begin? Komarat acharet pragyo dharman bhagavataniha. From the very beginning of life, or at least from when you realize the necessity, engage in Bhagavad Dharma. Durabam manasam janma tadapya dhruvam artatam. This material body this human body is so difficult to attain. Even though it's temporary, it has artha, it has value. So Prahlad began at the most basic level. Once having established the super excellence of, amongst human bodies, that is, of having a human body in terms of the opportunities it presents, he then began to explain how the living entity becomes entangled. He's giving basic instructions about material existence. He says something which, even to this day, I notice affects people so profoundly when they hear it, as it affected me when I first heard it. In May of 72, I saw the devotees really for the first time. I had seen them here and there before, but I never took them serious. But I saw them on television, David Susskind show. It was Jayadvaita Maharaj and several others. And my reaction was, who are these people? These people are fools. I listened to them explain about their lifestyle, their 4 rules. I still remember what I said. I turned to my roommate. We were both studying for our finals at Yale. I said, did you hear what they said about how they live? And the devotees kept using the word ananda. I picked that one up. Ananda, bliss. I said to my roommate, they talk about Ananda. We'll invite them to one of our parties. We'll show them what Ananda is. True confession on Lord Nrshima Day's appearance day. One month later, thanks to the New York Temple Sankirtan devotees, I got on the train from Manhattan to Jersey City to visit someone, and outside the train station, Jersey City, was a devotee. And he handed me a Transcendental Teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. There are other circumstances I don't want to explain, though. So, anyway, I took the book, and I went to where I was going and sat down to read. And when I got to page 2, I was slumped over on the couch. Prabhupada had explained this Sukham Andriyakam Daitya Deha Yogena Dehina. The taste, and he quoted this verse from Prahlad Maharaj and put his Bhaktivedanta whammy on it. The taste of sense gratification is the same no matter what body you have. I just collapsed. Oh my God. Therefore, why should you work like a cat and dog just to get the same flavor that they are getting? I was devastated. And then he went on to explain that why should you struggle for happiness? You're going to get what you're going to get anyway. Just as you get your right amount of distress. You don't struggle for distress. It still comes. Why should you struggle for happiness? I was totally astounded. So I resolved, the next day I'm going to go to Greenwich Village. They have many alternative bookshops there. I'm going to get all the books they have by this Swami whose name I can't pronounce. So I owe that debt to Srila Prabhupada's presentation of Prahlad Maharaj's teachings with such clarity and power that it was able to cut through the dark heart of someone like me. I'm not going to, of course, not going to tell you the whole story, but I'm just saying this so you understand there's hope for everyone to be Krishna conscious. Because when, for example, His Holiness Bhakti True Maharaj heard the story of how this miserable soul came to Prabhupada's lotus feet, he said, and you know how humble Bhakti True Maharaj is, he just said, now I know anyone can be a devotee. Prahlad began his basic analysis of material existence. And then he ends up explaining the highest Vaishnava conclusions in this verse that we're hearing today. How to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead everywhere. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, you know this is the pinnacle of the confidential dialogue between Ramananda Roy and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ramananda Roy asked Lord Chaitanya, what am I seeing? First I see a sannyasi, then I see a cowherd boy, then I see a golden doll, and what is happening? And what was Lord Chaitanya's response? Lord Chaitanya responded in the same way that you read in the Bhaktivedanta purport here. This purport is actually Srila Prabhupada's ecstasy. He always told us at the BBT, anyone can translate, but my purports are my devotional ecstasies. And so this purport of today's verse is just such a topmost presentation in such simple language of the highest Vaishnava experience, just as Ramananda Roy experienced in his dialogue with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What am I seeing? He asked Lord Chaitanya. What's happening? And Lord Chaitanya just said, nothing unusual. You're not seeing anything unusual for someone with the deep love that you have. And Lord Chaitanya told him, no one except you has seen this before. And Mahaprabhu quoted the verse that Srila Prabhupada has in the purport. Stavara jangama deke, na deke tara murti, savarta hoy nija, ishta deva spurti. The Mahabhagavat, the advanced devotee, certainly sees everything mobile and immobile. Or is it mobile and immobile? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. I don't want to cause any controversies. Nor do I want to hold up. I don't want to hold up the schedule. The Mahabhagavat, the advanced devotee, certainly sees everything mobile and immobile, but he does not exactly see their forms. Rather, everywhere he immediately sees manifest the form of the Supreme Lord. And you get a premonition later in the purport that the most perfect devotee, Prahlad, saw Narayan within a stone, letting you know what's coming up next. Now, after Prahlad A to Z presentation of everything from analyzing material existence, and he was firm about it, to seeing Krishna. Your next, the reality of his students who are actually his fellows. Their response was in two ways. Srila Prabhupada describes it. They did not realize this for me. My parents did that for me. This Leela is so dear to us because we see the dependency of Prahlad and the reciprocation going on between Lord Nrsingadev and Prahlad. Besides that, remember Hiranyakashipu had tried everything to have his son killed? And when it didn't work, all his various methods to exterminate Prahlad, the teachers came and said, don't be depressed. We are confident we can re-educate him, we can train him up so that he forgets whatever he's heard from. We don't know what he's heard from whom, but something's gotten into him. Don't worry, we'll take care of it. It didn't work. And therefore, you can just imagine, you can just visualize the teacher's reaction. They saw not only did Prahlad resist any re-education, but Prahlad's Krishna consciousness and the Krishna consciousness of all his schoolmates was increasing, and the teachers saw that happening right before their eyes. They panicked and felt helpless. Just put yourself in their shoes for a moment. They're afraid. They have totally failed. They went to Hiranyakashipu and reported that the situation has become acute. It's out of the hands of the teachers. We can't do anything about it. So then Hiranyakashipu begins his cold-blooded deliberation that he would personally kill his son. Before, he had entrusted Prahlad's death to so many agents, elephants and soldiers with weapons, and having agents try to throw Prahlad off a cliff. But now Hiranyakashipu has made up his mind that he has to kill his son. Prahlad feels affection for his father. He falls down at Hiranyakashipu's feet. What is Hiranyakashipu's response? He begins to present himself as the supreme cause of all causes. He begins to describe his glories as greater than any so-called supreme personality of Godhead. What was Prahlad's response to that? He challenged his father. How? Simply by describing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In response to his father's presenting his own glories, in response to his father presenting himself as the most powerful. The more Prahlad glorified the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the angrier Hiranyakashipu became. Now, whose fault is this in this situation? Is Prahlad wrong? His father is presenting himself as God. Prahlad responds, and not in a way to directly enrage his father, but simply by presenting the glories of the real Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that simply increases the anger of Hiranyakashipu. I believe it was on a morning walk here in Chicago. A book distributor has asked Srila Prabhupada a question. If you try to present bhakti to someone, especially if you try to present them a Krishna conscious literature, and they refuse, whose fault is it? Srila Prabhupada replied that unless you have gone out of your way purposely to make them angry, it's always their fault. Because you are presenting the real thing. If they refuse it, it's always their fault. But then he added on to it, even though it's always their fault, the devotee's always thinking, how can I get better and better at presenting the medicine? How can I improve in my presentation? In other words, a devotee doesn't just rest on his or her laurels. Well, I presented it to them. They didn't take it, so. It's the way they are, the demons. Now, if you read Prabhupada's purports in this seventh canto, you'll find out he uses quite strong language and says more. Yes, they are demons, but he said, try to improve your presentation. A devotee, out of humility, thinks, because of my faults, they are not accepting. So that's the humility of a devotee. It's kind of a double reality. It's always their fault, unless you've gone out of your way to enrage them, which Prahlad didn't. He didn't go out of his way to enrage his father, but he's just describing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But his father took it in that way. So it was not Prahlad's fault. But Prahlad will always think of the welfare of his father. So much so that after Lord Nrsingadev kills Prahlad, and Lord Nrsingadev offers Prahlad whatever benediction he would want, what was Prahlad's response? My father, please do something about my father. It's paradoxical because there's a whole chapter of prayers by Prahlad Maharaj pacifying Lord Nrsingadev, who just killed his father. Prahlad's glorifying the killer of his father. Yet at the same time, he's asking Lord Nrsingadev, when it's benediction time, he's asking, please do something for my father. So this is the Vaishnav. Let's focus on the peak of Hiranyakashipu's rage. What really upset Hiranyakashipu, besides Prahlad's presentation that there's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hiranyakashipu was also upset by what he perceived to be Prahlad's presenting himself as being more expert in sense control than him. Now remember, Hiranyakashipu had performed such severe austerities that Lord Brahma came to see him and offered him benedictions. So he's extraordinarily hung up on himself. Prahlad, you seem to think you're better than me at controlling the senses. You are minimizing my value. You are denying my power to rule you. We can look in our hearts and try to see how that dark tendency can be there. That tendency which so infuriated Hiranyakashipu. How dare you deny my power to rule you? Don't you understand who I am and who you are? And then he asked the famous question to Prahlad, Kim Bala, where does your strength come from? Hiranyakashipu is shrewd. He sees that Prahlad has tapped into some kind of amazing power. And even Hiranyakashipu admits he's perplexed. Don't you know, Prahlad? Even the demigods tremble in fear from me. What's going on with you? Where do you get your power from? And what was Prahlad's response to the famous Kimbala question? Father, I get my power from the same place you get yours from. Sounds kind of cheeky, but he wasn't being cheeky. He was just making a factual statement as a young 5-year-old boy. My power, your power, everyone's power all comes from the same source. At this point, you might think Prahlad is kind of naive, isn't he? I mean, he's really putting himself on the limb there. And yes, that's what outreach requires, that we have to put ourselves out on the limb and trust that Krishna will back us up, Krishna will instruct us, Krishna will empower us with the ways and means how to reach out. We shouldn't be afraid to make so-called mistakes, and we should always consider ourselves to be students of the outreach effort, always ready to hear from anyone how we can improve. And birth after birth, we can assist Srila Prabhupada in this way. One devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, the desire to lifetime after lifetime assist you. In this case, the devotee was referring to distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. Is that desire pure? And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, that is pure devotional service. So if we had that attitude that there's so much to learn, I may not finish in this lifetime, don't become discouraged that it seems like countless lifetimes how to learn. It's very wonderful for a devotee to think, I'm going to keep trying. I may not get there in this lifetime, but that's all right. I'm going to be the servant of the servant and beg for the empowerment of Prahlad Maharaj and his representatives. Crossing cultural barriers, it can be excruciating. Briefly, I can say from my own experience, in 40 years, I've been on every continent of the world except Antarctica, and each time to readjust, these sensitivities are in this place, these sensitivities are not in that place. It's really nice and tough on the false ego. But it's wonderful for detaching. Such experiences are wonderful for detaching yourself from your conceptions and your attachments. You learn to see things as others see them, but you don't see it. Now just think, I often give this example, especially we have many devotees here of material Indian descent. Yes, for many, except those who were born here, it's crossing that divide to deal with the Western population. It can seem very difficult. But what I often point out is just think about the first American devotees who went with Srila Prabhupada to India. How they had to cross that divide. And if you talk to them, I don't know how much of this you'll see in Lilamrita, but if you talk to these devotees, it was a major cultural transformation. Yet they did it out of service. So much so that so many of our devotees of American material descent so many of them have mastered preaching in India or to Indians. They can actually out-Indian the Indians. You talk to His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, His Holiness Ramapad Maharaj. They know how to present Krishna consciousness, taking into account all the sensitivities, all the mindsets. I've been told I don't do too bad myself either, but anyway. But just think, how do they do that? Out of compassion. Out of wanting to help Krishna's parts and parcels reconnect to Him. So if it can work one way, it can work the other way. That is my point. But it takes an effort. And it takes some patience, and yes, you'll make quote-unquote mistakes. Just like the first devotees who American devotees who went to India, well, they made heaps of mistakes, said things you're not supposed to say. They used the word rascal. Prabhupada said it, so we 20-year-olds could also say that to a 60-year-old Indian man. Prabhupada said it. They quickly learned, you don't say such things. So yes. So many of you all will laugh at that, but what about when you try to go the other way? Someone else will be laughing. A Vaishnava has to be transcendental to all that. I have seen that it is extraordinarily possible for those born in the West to reach Indian audiences, and certainly I have seen the other way too. It's possible for those born in India to become so adroit, so expert at dealing with the Western mentality. Who's the greatest example of that? Srila Prabhupada. Just visualize Srila Prabhupada in Manhattan, studying the Americans and trying some way to reach them. Mukunda Maharaj was describing to me what it was like for Srila Prabhupada before 2nd Avenue. He said Prabhupada would hold programs in lofts, and he would do a little kirtan himself, playing cartels, and then he would give a talk couched in stories from India, meaning India, because of all the hippies and beatniks, whatever, they were very much interested in India, mysticism. So Prabhupada would package in that way, but always with the Siddhanta. He would always quote from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and would not change his tune, but he just packaged it because he knew the audience was very interested in exotic mysticism from India. And then after his talk, he would go around himself distributing finger food to those who had gathered, and he would approach each one and say, "How are you doing?" and just make kind of social talk. So Mukunda Maharaj told me that's how that Prabhupada began before 2nd Avenue. And Mukunda Maharaj especially told me that to emphasize, this so-called loft program is not your idea. This is what Srila Prabhupada did. I appreciated that. So just see Prabhupada dealing with the Americans, waiting online at 2nd Avenue with the youngest devotees to take a shower. Tolerating their heaps of mistakes, tolerating their lack of culture. We want to follow in the footsteps of our founder, Acharya. If we study his perseverance, what did he say? Prabhupada said, I practically had to walk through fire to start this Hare Krishna movement. What is that fire? A natural, eternal Brajbasi dealing with what he had to deal with in Manhattan? He could have said, and many of his godbrothers said that. I remember even at Prabhupada's disappearance, first disappearance in ceremony, 1977, some of his godbrothers came to give speeches. And I remember to this day, one said, Bhaktivedanta Swami has done a great thing. I myself did not have the taste for associating with such low-class persons. Perseverance, patience, all comes when we take as our life's mission to present bhakti to everyone. Krishna relishes that effort so much, even when it seems materially like failure. There'll be times in your outreach when, amidst the greatest apparent failures from the material point of view, you receive the greatest mercy. That's Krishna showing you that it's not about the material outcome. It's all about pleasing the parampara, and in this way, pleasing the senses of the Supreme Personality Godhead. So what I'm like to stress is the effort to roll up our sleeves and let's do something. I spoke at the ILS how from that exotic vantage point across the ocean, a 12-hour flight from Los Angeles or San Francisco, I get to see millennials, persons ages 18 to 30 from all parts of the world, and especially loads of American students. And as I said at the ILS, the Americans always tell me, we don't know anything about Hare Krishna. We've never seen it. It's quite shocking for me to hear that. I asked them all, haven't you seen this before? Haven't you heard about this before? No. And as I said at the ILS, the British, when I asked them that, they have a different response. Oh yes, we know all about them in the UK. Isn't that the religion for the other people? You know, the British are a bit, subtle and snide. It's for the other people, for the immigrants, not the real British. Yet I see these persons so eager and appreciative of Prabhupada's books, so eager to take up the process of bhakti. In my university engagements in the USA, I think I started at University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Such a wonderful program. 50 or 60 students came, but more than the numbers, I was shocked by the attitude. First of all, I was prepared for just 5 students to show up. And then I expected their attitude would be a bit cool, but cool meaning not so enlivened, but they were just completely open. And the next day, a university professor came to see me, and he told me humbly, he's rated by the students at the university as the most popular professor. His courses, he teaches Indian philosophy and Western philosophy. And he proudly told me, don't you know, from my classes, you're getting 2 initiated devotees. I'm very happy. I told him, very happy to meet you. So he said, does your organization understand what's going on with these university students, these persons in their 20s? Does your organization understand? He said, first thing you need to know, he's a professor, so he's going to lecture me. And I'm listening. After all, students from his class are very favorable to bhakti, and he was proud of it. He said, does your organization realize how anti-institutional the young people are today? I said, some of us understand that. She said, does your organization understand how much outside the box they're thinking these days and looking for solutions outside of the box? I said, yes, some of us understand. Then from there, I went to USC, University of Southern California, in Los Angeles. And again, I wasn't expecting much. I asked Shastrakrit Prabhu, who arranged the program, okay, what's the demographic going to be like? He said, 90% Indian. I said, fine, they're spirit souls too. Yeah, I don't mind that juicy, low-hanging fruit. Life's got to be easy sometimes. So I got to the program. Savas Prabhu went with me, and I was shocked. It is 90% Western. So what's going on here? Then from there, I went to Toronto, courtesy of Mangalarti Devi for the usual. I've been doing that stint for about 8 years now at the universities in Toronto. University of Toronto, which is the prestige school in Canada. Various other universities there. And yes, I knew the response I get there. Canadians are very mellow, and they're not besieged by so much angst as in the USA. They've got a social safety net in place in terms of their social benefits. And then from there I went to Philadelphia, again courtesy of Mangalarti Devi, and did programs at Temple and Arcadia University and University of Pennsylvania. University of Pennsylvania I was especially wary of. Ivy League school. I know about the Ivy League ego. So, but again, I was astonished. And in so many cases at these events, these students were easily buying Bhagavad Gita. And then some of them who had already purchased Bhagavad Gita came up to me and told me, I'm reading, and of course I was a little, uh-oh, did you get to a certain section? Have you gotten to chapter 2 yet? Where Prabhupada talks, he quotes the Manu Samhita. They didn't, no problem. You know what? We're on chapter 17, we're on chapter 18. Sometimes, we really mental ourselves out, Will they understand Prabhupada's books? I myself don't know why Prabhupada said those things. What to do? Oh no. Time after time, I met so many students who were reading Bhagavad Gita, and they were ladies too, and they were loving it. Maybe I'm just meeting the wrong people or something. All right, I'm open to that, but in any case, I've seen such readiness. There's something going on in the young American population. Again, I'm talking about millennials. I try to specialize in millennials because I see that they have the potential to be activists, and our Krishna Conscious Society, our ISKCON, needs activists. So I've always been thinking how to tap into that activism. Persons who don't feel that they're part of what's happening in the world. They don't like it. They don't know how to solve it, how to reach them. I see that, and Kalakanta Prabhu told me this, and I didn't forget it, but I didn't understand at first when he told me. He told me how frustrated students are in Gainesville about the political situation, the economic situation. They were promised hope and change, and it didn't happen, and now it's like, So keeping Kalakanta Prabhu's words in mind, I did observe that. They're ready for something outside the box. I was just reading in the New York Times the other day how you can be a lawyer even graduating from Columbia University Law School and you will not get a job. This is one reason why social theorists say even though America relatively is a prosperous country in the world, it's so religious. Because the theory is that once society becomes prosperous and has a well-organized government, there's no need for religion. And the example always pointed out is Scandinavia, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, one of the most atheistic countries in the world, some of the most atheistic countries in the world, and yet they're prosperous and stable. So the theory is that most likely it is such that when the governments become strong, law and order becomes well established, people lose interest in God. There used to be a notion that a watch people is a good people. Religion had to come about in order for society to scale up from just village communities. In the village nomadic existence of human beings, however, back when that was supposed to have happened, there were many primitive religions. They were multi-gods who were always acting in irrational ways and full of pride and punishing without any reason and doing all kinds of strange things. But then gradually, because supposedly everything evolves, gradually there evolved the super religions that you have today. And those super religions, like Islam, Christianity, Judaism, they offer the advantage to society of a surveillance God. One God who is omniscient, he watches everything you do. He's interventionist, he intervenes, he zaps you when you do something wrong, if not now, but after death you'll go to hell. And so supposedly that kind of surveillance God was necessary for society to scale up to its sophisticated level today, because people would have a reason not to misbehave because the big eye of God in the sky is seeing them. And therefore they'll behave and society can proceed smoothly with economic development. But then, the theorists say, as law and order became established, as there's a good police system, as there is a good judicial system, guess what? There's no more need of the big eye in the sky. And the proof of that is Scandinavia. And this is what they say. Such prosperous, stable societies and godless. Then there's always the outlier, the contradiction, the USA. I was just looking last night, the latest polls show that around 62% of the American public are sure they're going to heaven. And such an astronomically high rate of identifying with a particular religion. It's dropping. I think it's down now to about 74% from 82%. But the media overseas, like if you read the media in the UK, in Canada, in Australia, New Zealand, they always refer to America as that very religious country, because Christianity has died in those countries 50 years ago. So why is it that the USA, although it's relatively prosperous, regardless of the division of wealth, it's still relatively prosperous, why is it so religious? Aha, theorists have to have an answer. Because in the USA, number one, there's no universal health care. Number two, there's employment anxiety and no lasting unemployment benefits. And number three, there's no social safety net always in place to catch people. Therefore, Americans need God. Because they're always in anxiety, do I have enough money? I often quote a survey done in Silicon Valley some years ago. It was in the New York Times. In order to qualify for this survey, you had to have $1 million in cash, you had to have $1 million in investments, and you had to have a home worth at least $1 million. And so the persons who qualified for the survey, in so many cases, said, we're not rich, we're just getting by. A disaster could happen at any moment, someone in the family gets sick, we need to have money to pay for that, we're not rich. We could use much more. And then they were being filmed at the dinner table, a particular family. And the wife of the husband said, we need much more money. And the husband chirped in, my boy. Yes, my boy, He's fortunate in that I'm worth a few $1,000,000. But how does my boy feel when he goes across the street to play with someone whose father is worth 50 million? How does my boy feel? I've got to make more money so that my boy can feel he can hold his head up. As a result, what's the man doing? The poor man, he's working 70 hours a week. When does his boy get to see him? But he feels he's doing the best thing because the family's not rich. So there's that kind of social angst in the USA, and therefore the theorists say this is why the USA is so religious. Hiranyakashipu could not understand the dedication of Prahlad to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, that critical moment came. Prahlad, you've dared to describe someone more powerful than me. You've dared to describe someone who's omnipresent. Where is he? Hiranyakashipu is being scientific in the conventional mainstream sense. Where is this God? I don't see him. It's quite obvious. No one can see this God. Therefore, you're speaking nonsense, Prahlad. Is he here? Is he there? Is he in the pillar? And what, as everyone knows, Prahlad sees Lord Nrsingadev peeping out of the pillar. Prahlad has that double vision described in this verse. He sees Nrsingadev everywhere because everything is the energy of the Lord. Simultaneously, he sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is what Prahlad is teaching now as the last instruction to the demoniac schoolmates. And this is what Lord Chaitanya certified Ramananda Roy as experiencing. You see the energy at the topmost level of bhakti, but not simply do you see the material forms, but you relate immediately to the beloved. The example Prabhupada always gave. Someone in love sees something belonging to the beloved, immediately he thinks of the beloved. So similarly, at the top level of bhakti, wherever you look, simply brings about your remembrance, your seeing of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So much so that in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada explains that wherever the first-class devotee looks, whatever he sees stimulates his bhakti to increase, stimulates his Krishna consciousness wherever he turns his eye, because he sees everything as Krishna's energy, and therefore he immediately remembers, he or she immediately remembers Krishna. Now, Hiranyakashipu, the acharyas explain, noted that Prahlad sees something. And that's what enraged him even more than being outrageously enraged. He saw that Prahlad's observing. He noted by Prahlad's physical expression. In other words, you see something, Prahlad? You act like you're seeing something, but there's nothing there. Do you understand? Reminds me of a statement made famous by a now deceased astrophysicist, Carl Sagan, and he's blessed the whole world with this statement: extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. You make the extraordinary claim, there's the soul, there's God, you better have some extraordinary evidence to back up this extraordinary claim. So they say that, and then you're supposed to tremble. Ooh. Do we have any extraordinary evidence? Gosh, we're making extraordinary claims. But who decides what's extraordinary about a claim? That's a relative thing based on your social, political, philosophical conditioning. So, who owns the playing field to decide what's extraordinary? If there's some little child here, so you're too old, Prahlad. But maybe, do you remember the first time you saw popcorn being made? And the corns would pop up into the air? You might have thought, this is magical. This is extraordinary. And your parents might have told you, Prahlad and Nrshima, this is all done by a popcorn making machine. And what would you respond? Well, that's an extraordinary claim. A machine that makes popcorn pop up into the air? Amazing. It must be so, so everything depends on your point of view. What's extraordinary? So in that way, don't be intimidated by such a statement, which is often presented more commonly than we would like. It's quite a frequent presentation. We find an extraordinary claim to be that matter gives rise to consciousness and matter gives rise to life. We find it extraordinary. All right. You could say, at least let's be fair. Let's level the playing field. Bhagavad Gita is making an extraordinary claim that Krishna is the origin of everything. Within the body, there's the Atma. And you're making an extraordinary claim that everything comes from matter and you don't know where the matter originates. Okay, both are extraordinary. You could say, sometimes it's put this way, magical matter versus magical fields. Even atheistic scientists will present it like that. You want to believe in magical fields like a soul, and someone else wants to believe in magical matter. All right. We'll just say there's a level playing field between what is extraordinary. Both are. What is the process for verifying that life and consciousness come from matter? At least present us a process. So whether you accept what Krishna says or not, I was speaking about this at University of Pennsylvania. Whether you accept what Krishna says or not, at least Krishna's presenting a process. And I always reassure the students, nowhere in Bhagavad Gita does Krishna say, believe in me. And then you see a big sigh of relief in the audience. Shh. Yeah, because, religious belief has really been hammered, you might say, in the USA, and it's really been, it's been around for a long time, and Americans are very religious, and therefore young persons are becoming more and more wary of someone hawking religious beliefs. According to sociological surveys, a group called the Nuns, N-O-N-E-S, expressing no religious affiliation whatsoever. They are the fastest growing religion in the world. In 1972, 5% of Americans said they were in the nuns category. A few years ago, it was 12%. Now it's up to 20%. And for Americans under the age of 30, it's 33%. Say, no religious affiliation whatsoever. So there's this sensitivity about anyone hawking beliefs. It's part of the American psyche. I see it clearly from my exotic vantage point overseas. Let me tell you what happens. It's funny. I'll do programs, and there'll be millennials, persons age 18 to 30 in the audience, particularly from America. They'll be from the UK, and New Zealand, Australia, Germany, France. And so I'll just give a presentation, on Bhagavad Gita, but I try to put it in a contemporary context and so on and so forth. And then questions? Anyone have any questions? Often I can count on it. One American will raise her hand. Excuse me, are you trying to say that your way is the only way? What do the other nationalities do? I've seen this happen 5 times. It's hilarious. They'll pat the American reassuringly on the shoulder. Calm down now. He's just making a presentation. Just take it easy now. All he's doing is saying, his experience and what this book says. If you like, you accept. If you don't. Because Christianity in these other countries, like New Zealand, Australia, France, Germany, Christianity's died decades ago. so they don't have any hang-ups. So therefore, they can actually sit and hear. But each time, you can always count on the American. Is your way the only way? So it's something we have to, deal with. It's that, in the clientele. That's what, often they come with that, with those traumas that they feel they have. So I always assure the audience that nowhere in Bhagavad Gita does Krishna say believe in him. Everywhere Krishna says, Maya Sakta Manaparta Yogam Yunjan Barashraya. I'm going to explain to you the process by which you can verify everything I'm saying. You'll know me in full, free from doubt. So I say to the students, and I did at the University of Pennsylvania, I say, isn't that fair enough? And they nod their heads, yeah, fair enough. Okay. I may not follow that process, but Krishna's giving a process, okay. And then I say, where is the process for verifying that life and consciousness come from matter? And of course, no one can present that. So I say, at least give Krishna a fair chance. All right, I'm getting enthusiastic by your association, but we have a schedule. Maharaj is kindly making sure I know that. He's been kindly making sure I try to be a good devotee since 1973. So it's been a tough job. But I thank him for that. What should we do now? Should we end or take questions? Or either way.
We have to keep our schedule.
Yes.
And class was over about 7 minutes ago. So I think people that wish to ask questions can go forward and have a chat with one another. I had a bunch of questions. But
All right. Yes.
We like each other's association so much, we may forget that we do have a schedule. And I'll remind you that the schedule is, Gopal Bhatta is very punctual, and you'll find out how he'll make you feel if you're not punctual. He was sitting there. I can say this because he's not sitting there now. Please be on time, promptly, 9:29, and it'll be nice. And we'll begin at 9:30. Any practical announcement, other? Okay. Thank you very much, Prabhupada.
Yay. I'm all right, thank you. I have Dayata. Yeah, he takes good care of me. So.
I was just wondering, what you were describing about preaching seen in America seems to resonate with sort of what was observed when you start distributing in English colleges. It's so right.
Yes.
And like you said, many of them are reading for a budget, also, I've had to encounter these students in the past few months where the long emails for Prabhupada's comments about women. But that's been like 2 out of 20.
Yeah.
I do want to deal with it. I do want to know what you think about those students. But you're right, there's many who actually read it and see
Yeah.
right past the
Yeah. Ladies also.
ladies also.
Yeah.
I have 2 questions. So my first question is, so you maybe acknowledge maybe with the personality and a sense of what's happening, but you're still not empowered. And I wonder where that empowerment will actually get people from, hey, I like the book, or yeah, I like the chanting, to I want to chant every day. Where's that empowerment? Second, how do you say, what's pieces, what's success?
There's always going to be resistance from Maya. Don't think that there wasn't such resistance in the 70s. It was a different type. So you're going to just expect that, and when you see that it's not possible to counter that, you just have to move on. It's unfortunate. I remember as a Sankirtan devotee on the streets of New York in the 70s, it was something different. At least 10 times a day on Sankirtan, someone would come up to you and say, "My guru is God." Your guru doesn't understand his position. My guru is God. At least 10 times a day. It became so much that Prabhupada came to New York one time and said, if you just go on distributing books, one day all these false gods will go away. And we had to take that on faith because our everyday experience was the opposite. So, Maya changes, but same old Maya. So you try your best, but if they have such attitudes, just excuse yourself and move on.
What about the empowerment part? Where does the empowerment get you?
We'll talk about that later today. Okay? All right.
Thank you for your class. I have a question. You mentioned that statement for the Indian body to approach Americans and Westerners is very difficult,
Yeah.
which is true. But I have some good relationships with my official colleagues who are Americans. So whenever I get a chance, I try to share something with them, especially when they are stressed out. But one thing I'm seeing that whenever I try to explain that everyone is suffering in this, world, and there is this, and I try to explain the concept, they appreciate. They say, "That's nice. That's wonderful. How nice." But then, they think that it's for me, not for them.
Yes.
How-
But you're trying.
The only thing I didn't say to them is, "You are also part of it." That's the statement I didn't say. But they are not able to take it. They are just seeing you and
It's glorious that you're trying, and my point is if you keep trying to cross that divide, Krishna will give you intelligence. But you have to keep trying. That's why I said imagine what it was like for the first American devotees to go to India with Prabhupada. They could only think to imitate what Prabhupada did. Prabhupada said rascal, so I'm a 25-year-old American, rascal. And they quickly learned, you don't do that. And Prabhupada was explaining to them. He says, it's like dealing with China, China, the dishes and plates and like that. Not the country China, but the ceramics. He said, once you break it, you can't put it back together again. That was the main thing he taught them. So they gradually had to learn. Now they're so expert.
Is there any to approach Indian body people? We have the essence of Bhagavad Gita course. Like that, is there any course that is there where we can target this? Because there are people who can come, but how to present is what I mean.
Present what?
Present the essence of the like how we have the searching for happiness. Like there are classes that we go. Who am I?
My point that I'm emphasizing is that you try with the heart, the desire to reach them, and you will make quote-unquote mistakes, okay? But you try.
Yeah, in one of the class, I just appreciate one point from Maharaj. Maharaj told that to be determined in your service, fix to one service and do that the full heart.
This is going to take time. Those who want to cross the divide, it's going to take time. But if it worked one way, it could work the other, right? Right? Yes? Yes? Mention that who? I didn't say Americans. I said a certain age group.
Oh, millennials.
Yes.
Millennials are anti-institutional.
Yes.
Handle that.
Woo! That's another hour discussion. All right. Hare Krishna.
Did you find out the time?
I will let you know. Just let me get through till like this
I
afternoon.
know, I'm sorry for the noise.
All right.
It's also me and the devotee who asked you the first question.
I don't remember.
Himanshu, about the issue. The devotees, they kind of just skip over the Himanshu. Where is he?
In any case, what?
What? I'm bringing it. Hey, you gotta pay me back.